news reports the New South Wales government's working on a deal with Origin Energy to keep Eraring, this is the coal-fired power station, it's about 25% of the power in New South Wales, it comes from it. They want to keep it open beyond its planned closure date of 2025. So they want it there for another 4 or 5 years, they say. It could cost as much as $150 million a year. But Matt Keane, the Liberal, says don't bail them out. Let's have a giant big battery. Yeah, please, you're kidding me, aren't you? I mean, a battery's not going to match 25% of New South Wales power if Eraring is shut down.
Matt Keane is off with the fairies, Peter. I mean, you just cannot do it with batteries. And right now, I just checked, it's a cool evening here in Sydney, and Eraring's pumping out about 2 gigawatts of very useful electricity. Without that, we'd have blackouts. That's the bottom line. And I don't know whether it's in some sort of fantasy land or whatever, but you cannot run the grid without baseload power. And at the moment, that comes from coal, about 65-70% of the electricity that we use here in New South Wales. So I don't know how he thinks he's going to change that in the space of a year.
And I mentioned him tonight to remind Liberals in New South Wales you do not want him back on the front bench as leader. All right, if I can go to you now, Senator. Chris Bowen, he has admitted finally when new gas, he says, particularly because we've got this bridge left there when renewables are coming in and we still haven't got baseload backup. He's gone ahead and green-lit 6 new offshore wind projects in Gippsland. Well, Gippsland's in Victoria, and he hasn't remembered that Victoria's banned gas, right down to our gas cooktops, in fact. So how's he going to square this circle?
Well, if you've ever wondered what it looks like when a dog that's been chasing its tail finally catches it, this is it. It's madness. There's no cohesion between state and federal Labor. There's no cohesion between federal Labor last week and federal Labor this week. As you said earlier in your program, he spent the better part of the last couple of years demonising gas and how evil it is. But then reality hits and they need it to keep the lights on, to keep manufacturing going. I only have to look at one of the most incompetent politicians, I believe, in Australia, Lily D'Ambrosio, who took aim at Madeleine King, the Federal Resources Minister, over her support for gas and her comments on it to demonstrate the point you've made. He might say we need gas, having demonised it for so long, but there is no way he's going to be able to get anything past the hard left of the Labor Party anywhere in the country. And that is bad for all Australians.
I might add too, a lot of those offshore wind farms are foreign owned, subsidised by poor old Australian taxpayers. Profits head offshore. Nick, all this talk about billions more in the budget, this is the Treasurer today, to fast track all of these private sector projects. Now, I think government does a shocking job of picking winners, rarely works well. And more questions today about the $1 billion handed over to PsiQuantum to build this quantum computer in Brisbane. We find out there's an involvement of lobbyists connected with Labor. This has a real stench about it.
Yeah, stinks to high heaven, Peter. And, you know, it's not even come under any recognisable or registered government program. It's just out of the blue. I think it's wrong. I think this government is going way off beam with some of the subsidies and assistance it's offering to businesses. The fact is, if a business can't get that funding from the private finance, then there's probably something, almost certainly something very not right about that business plan that they're operating to. That's always the way it is, and I think this is dangerous. I think that investment in hydrogen is putting good money after bad. They've got to change direction on this. If they want to support business, you actually do it through basic things like lowering corporate tax rates and cheap electricity. That's how you support business, not with subsidies.
Senator Duniam, I think one of the best policies you had the last election was allowing people to get their own super to get into the housing market. But you did it too late, right? Way, way, way too late. There's a lot of talk today in the media that you're actually going to be pretty bold here, that you're going to allow people to access more of their super and you're going to announce something pretty soon. Well, what can you tell us?
Well, it would be foolish of me to pre-announce anything that might be coming up by way of announcements by anyone on the front bench, including the leader. But certainly there was discussion today following on from the policy at the last election to enable people to access 50 grand of their super, their money, as you point out, and perhaps the idea of enabling people to use their entire super funds to purchase a property. Now, I think we should have a discussion about all options. Labor will rule that one out straight away because, as we know, the unions control the super funds and, of course, are the paymasters of the government, and they don't want that money going into the pockets of those who own it. So we'll have that conversation. It's worth having because we've got to deal with affordability, but we also do need to deal with availability. State and local governments need to address land release so we can actually bring more supply on, or else prices are never going to taper off and come down to make housing more affordable. So we've got to address both ends. Affordability now, but land release so we have availability into the future as well.